but just in case. And let me share my screen. Okay. I've got VirtualBox running, and I've got and I got all these steps. I can copy them and put them in a email if anybody wants them. But I got them off from Microsoft. I can only get so far, and I'm not going to run through and do all these. And the reason I'm not is some of them take 10 or 15 minutes to do. But Docker is, you can think of containers as a virtual machine, but unlike a virtual machine, it's more lightweight, where a container is you configure it and you can create your own containers. And once you've got that container, you can duplicate it, you can distribute it. One of the things companies are using it for is to quickly deploy new systems. In a computer that's running virtualization and running containers, if you've got 2 or 3 instances of the same container, right now, if I'm trying to run in VMware or VirtualBox, if I need to run 3 instances of Windows Server, I have to have a full install of Windows Server 3 times. All the disk space and all the resources. What the container will be is it will have a core OS and it will have whatever's installed. Say, for example, if you had a container that was MySQL, and lo and behold, there is up on Docker a MySQL Enterprise Edition server container. Here's a Couchbase database container, an IBM DB2. So there are a lot of containers out there that are pre-configured for a lot of things. Here's a MySQL. And you download that container, and it's typically much smaller than a full OS. Here's Ubuntu. You load it in once, you can then duplicate that container, but when you do, it doesn't truly duplicate everything. When you run that run multiple instances of the container, the core OS, the core system only runs once. So you've got, you can almost think of it as multitasking, which it is, but you get all the memory protection of virtualization in it. And it is more of a lightweight way of doing virtualization. Microsoft supports Docker now. In Server 2016, they did what they called Nano Server. Nano Server didn't go over that well, so they really pivoted, and in 2019 went to Docker, because Docker is very big on Linux. And the current CEO of Microsoft likes Linux and supports it. So we've got that ability. To do it, you need to run some PowerShell, and you got to run them as administrator. You would install the Docker provider. So that actually installs Docker to run in PowerShell. And so you do install the module, it downloads it, and then you do the package of it. So those steps, after you do that, you've got to restart your computer. Then, and I've got some of this twice, then you would download the different servers, unless you were going to create yours from scratch, and that's way beyond anything we could do. I wouldn't even attempt to create one from scratch unless I was dealing with it day in and day out. So you come and you find the one you want. I'm just at this first page, and I can go and say, okay, I'm just wanting Windows ones. And so here's a Go, the Go language one. And if I click on it, I can see more details. Well, usually. Here we go. And it tells me a little bit about it, and then some references so I can go and see how to use this particular container, who maintains it. So if I want to get it, I pick the operating system. So I want a Windows operating system. And I tell it to pull it or copy that command, although my cut and paste is not working right. So I'm going to have to type it in. And I'll start that part. And so I'll Docker pull, saying I want to get that one. And the name of the image. Now, when I run this, this may take a while. I don't know how big this is, so, but it says, hey there, and okay, I got an error. Commit hello world. Okay, it was doing, I must have done something, but now it's downloading and all, and it could take a while. This one may be small, so it may not take a long time. So you download those containers. You can then copy them if you need to. As soon as this actually finishes, the download's complete, it's actually installing it now. And this sometimes takes a while, even though it was a small container. Then you can go and run it. I had earlier done the server core and the nano server, but then that's when I found my virtualization is no longer working, and I'm going to have to figure out what's going on. It's downloading pieces, so it said complete. So you download it, and then you can run things from it, and that's where I would go back to the, in this case, since I'm downloading one that, and not creating my own, I would go back and look at the reference information and see how I need to run this. And so down here it tells me some things I can do, how I can run it. And typically once you've got them running, to actually run it, it's Docker space run, and then in this case it would be Go language, and then whatever options are there. And it's taking a lot longer to download than I thought it might. So it's probably doing the big one. But you can install those. If you are running server, and actually you cannot install this on Windows 10. You have to have Hyper-V running on Windows 10. If you're going to do it in VMware, there are some settings you have to change, not only in VMware, but you actually have to edit that VMX file. And I don't have those steps here. They're on my machine at the office, but there's, I think it's 3 lines that you have to add to do that. And then you can run a virtual machine in a virtual machine. Last fall in Tactical, we had to do that, and Tori may remember the steps, right? She stepped away. But you have to change a configuration, and I'm betting that may have happened to me too on this update. Is I'm going to have to figure out and change a configuration on it. But once you've got these containers running, they're lightweight. They don't take nearly the amount of processor power, memory, and everything that you get with that you get with a full OS that's running virtualized. If you've got 5 containers running and they're using the same core operating system, then you've got one instance of that, and so your memory footprint in your computer is much smaller. But because it's sharing that core operating system and the core code for the application, if it's the same application, you've got a much more lightweight, easy to deploy system, and so it's becoming very, very popular. We'll maybe in our new machines in the fall, new servers, we may try and run some Docker containers and all there, because as you're looking with it, it's becoming more and more used. Now, if your company's going to use Azure and do cloud computing, if you install your products with the Azure, you can have all of the Docker configuration and everything automatically running. In fact, Microsoft has some pre-configured devices, servers, that already have certain Docker images loaded, so they'll automate a lot of that for you, and then it's a matter of just running it. One example of where you might do this with and using the same Docker image in multiple instances of it is a web server. Big companies like, let's say Microsoft, they don't have a single web server running. They have a bunch of web servers running. If things get busy and they need to spin up a new instance to handle the heavier load, starting a full operating system might be 2 or 3 or 4 minutes. Starting just another container might be 15 to 30 seconds. Plus, again, if you're using less memory, you're going to be able to run more containers on the same machine without running out of memory. So that's a quickie on Docker. I had hoped to show you the Docker running, but that's what I get for letting my machine update itself and not testing it till just before class to see if it was still working. Because what I had done is I had gotten the Nano server, and we were just going to run on it a Hello World application that just ran the command prompt and printed something on the command prompt. You can see here probably the example of that one where I'm running it and I'm doing an --rm switch, and then I'm saying hello world, which is the name of the Docker container in this case. And then I'm running on that container, because it's a Windows container, I'm running command exe, which would be the command prompt with a couple of switches, and I'm just saying type hello world text, and it would just type that out. If I wanted to run PowerShell on it, I could run, and instead of command exe, I would run PowerShell.exe, and that would actually start PowerShell. And if I had a PowerShell script, then I could do the PowerShell script. So again, it gives us a good way of containerizing things and running things in less memory. Now, if the container is a Windows container, everything you run into with the Windows container, or everything you would know from Windows, you can do. Now, it doesn't have all the add-ins, but anything from PowerShell, command prompt, those things that would be in it would be there. You can run, say, a web server, IIS. You could run a SQL server, and have all that security and isolation. So that is, without me getting it running right, that's how you would use containers. And if you start doing server admin in a Windows environment, if it's a company of any size at all, I can pretty much guarantee that you are going to end up having to containerize things in the future. Now, if you're working a little mom and pop where you've got one server and that's it, maybe not. But if you're working at a company where you have multiple servers and you're running virtual machines, I can almost guarantee you're going to do containers. If you're doing Linux admin, you're going to do Docker containers as well, because that's, again, becoming, in fact, it's much bigger in the Linux world than it is in the Windows world. Any questions there? Well, a little update. I think I told you last week that our switches and all were ordered. Well, I found out that they thought they were ordered. TBR actually had not ordered them, but said they had. So they are, our purchasing people are getting with TBR, and they will probably order them. They're going to try and get everything done to get them ordered this week. The 9300 switches from Cisco, let me bring that up. The 9300 level switches right now only have about a 45-day lead time.
Wasn't there a time frame for the quote that they gave y'all?
Well, they had sent us a revised quote and the prices had not changed yet. So yes, there is a time frame, but we had before that gotten a revised quote. And in fact, he sent us a new revised quote today or yesterday, and it was actually the same dollar figure. So Cisco's not updated. But the 9300 switches have about a 45-day lead time, so that's not too bad. Those are the lower end switches. Those are the ones that are only about 20 grand each. We're getting 4 of those, 2 with power over Ethernet, 2 without, both 48 port. Then we've got the other, we're getting the firewall. I don't remember the model on it. I'll have to look it up in a second. But the 9500 switches, those, the lead time right now is about 3 months. The Catalyst 9500s. And let me actually bring up and show you that quote. Let's see, I need to find it. Okay, where is it? Okay. Okay, there's one of them. They put it in 2 separate quotes, one for the firewall and one for everything else. And I don't know why they did that. Okay. The 2 9500s, with everything, or about, with our discount, is 53,000. So about $27,000 each for those 2 switches. The 4 9300s are about 41,000 total. for 4 of them. So with our discount, they're about 10,000 a piece. The firewall is right at 10,000. It's one of the Cisco 2100 firewalls. And so that's what it looks like. And we could go through the tech specs. I'm not going to, but this firewall will handle all our traffic and all the ability for the students to VPN in. Now, the lead times. Okay, yeah. The firewall.
I keep seeing that little X on
Huh?
the bottom of your screen, and I keep trying to exit out of.
I was just about to say the same thing.
Okay. The firewall has a 42-day lead time. The 9500 has an 84-day lead time right now. So that if that doesn't get ordered soon, it won't be ordered. If it gets ordered today, it'll get in. It will be in the middle of July. The 9300s, the one with power over Ethernet, has 42 days, 28 days for the one without, and then a couple of the cables, 14 and 35 days for those. So if they get those ordered this week, we should have sometime end of May, get in the a couple of the switches, and then actually the 1st of May, middle of May, a couple of the switches, the other two the end of May. So we should be able to get those in time to start building things. Or wrong thing, wrong screen. In time to start building things this summer, assuming we can get in the new building. The latest word is that they're hoping to get permission, occupancy permission, to start moving the manufacturing equipment in early May. Now, again, other than Tori, that most of you are going to be gone, but that's
I'm still going to be in the area.
yeah, you'll still be around. You all, even if you're gone, if they'll let people in the building freely, we can get you all in and come and help.
Yeah, because in the fall, when you start doing some of these new labs and stuff, I'd like to come in and visit if that's possible.
Certainly, I have no problem with you helping all you want.
Because I'll be doing online program for my bachelor's, so I'll have that flexibility.
Computer Services Friday when they sent out their weekly jobs thing, they did have where there were at least one networking job at BIS. They don't pay the greatest, but it's a start, and they're still saying they're needing to hire somebody. So even with this, so you guys might want to take a look at that. It's in Piney Flats. We've got a few people that have been there for a while, but most of the folks at BIS that have worked, they work for a little bit there, and then when they finish or when they get a little experience, go off. Very often they're actually hired by some of the customers, the clients. So I mean, it's a good start for you. And anything, normally by this time of year, I've got a bunch of things to tell you guys about, but with what's going on, sorry, but it is what it is.
Yeah, the bookstore sent out an email stating that if you have rentals, you got to go to the bookstore website, print off a shipping label, and mail it back to campus.
Right.
So